Hello and welcome to this edition of Consciousness Raising Online. Good to see you, Clyde. As always, it's a pleasure to see you. Uh, the topic today, I will actually get to in a few minutes because I have to lay a foundation because of so much that has happened this past week. If you're watching this at a later date, I want to put this in context because this is being recorded on at the end of October, at the end of a week that was a definite display of American hate. Uh, the week started out with things like this: somebody was sending uh, bombs to two former presidents, Barack Obama and the Clintons. Well, Bill Clinton was former president, but I think it was addressed to Hillary. Uh, Several Congress people, former Attorney General, and when they got through counting, I think they said it was 14 of them, 14 bombs sent to the mails, and they arrested a guy within a few days down in Florida that they said was, quote, a Native American Trump supporter who was living out of his van or whatever. But there's some things I'm just going to throw out here just for the sake of clarity, or at least understanding as we go along how stuff happens. Now, first of all, let's understand something about these bombs. They kept saying they were potentially lethal. My question is, this guy was supposed to have been very, very broke, and wasn't he showed no knowledge of where he got this knowledge of how to build these bombs that were well enough built that they could go through the mail, even though all of them were intercepted. None of them went off. I want to know such things as, how did he get all these addresses? Okay. And how did he learn how to make these bombs? And if he was living out of his van, where did he put these bombs together? I doubt very seriously if he was putting them together in this little old van. So it's a lot of things about this whole thing that was suspicious, including this fact. They didn't have any uh, dynamite or any explosives, normal kind of explosives. And they also didn't have any shrapnel, anything in it like nails or anything like that. Normally, bombs like that, you put something in there to that turns into shrapnel, whether it's tacks or nails or whatever. None of these bombs had any of that. So I say this: that this whole thing with the bombs was a warning and a signal. A warning because all of them went to people who are opponents or outspoken critics of the present resident in the White House. First of all, that makes it automatically what? Suspicious, right? And then the second, so that was a warning. That was a warning. And then the idea that it was a signal. See, it was a signal to others of that ilk that it's okay. It's open season now. Go ahead and attack them physically. See, Trump has been attacking them verbally and promoting violence verbally, and now what the signal is that go for it for real. And we have to understand there are hundreds, possibly thousands of dudes like this out there. Now that was part of the week. We also had uh, just yesterday. Well, before that, this also happened this week. I think it was the beginning of the week. A white man went into a grocery store, shot a black man in the back of his head, and when he fell, he shot him several more times. Then he went outside and shot a black woman and killed her. Now it turns out this guy had also tried to get into a black church a few minutes before that, and somebody saw him coming or something, didn't like how he looked, and they locked him out. So that's when he went to the grocery store and killed two black people. And it's noteworthy because when he left the grocery store before he killed the black woman, a white man passed, saw him as something, and apparently appeared to be afraid. And the guy said to him, uh, "We don't kill white people." I'm like, whoa. So again, remember what I'm saying. This is signal going out. The signal is it's okay. Go ahead and do the physical stuff. Okay, we've already seen it with the police. The police beating up, shooting black people. That's been going on. It's also escalated in terms of police beating up black women and black girls. There was a video that came out last week that was showing this police. I think she was 14 or 15 years old, and they were literally hitting and kicking her, talking about they were trying to handcuff her. And the police chief said, "Oh no, he was okay. He was doing a police procedure." And it's not the first time. We've seen it over and over again. The escalation of attacking not just black men and black boys, but attacking black women and black girls. Um, there was also, uh, of course, the incident where a guy went into synagogue in Pittsburgh and killed 11 people. Interestingly enough, in all of these cases with these white men, none of them got killed. The guy in Pittsburgh did get shot 3 or 4 times, but he's alive and kicking. And he shot 4 police. None of them died, but he shot 4 police. So, again, there's this thing that seems to be okay that if you're white, and I ain't through. We also had the incident this week where a 16-year-old girl was all on the internet and stuff because she was on Dr. Phil's show. Her mother had her go on the show because she has a thing that she believes that she's white, and it's weird. It was weird just watching her. I felt bad for her because she's so delusional. But it turns out her mother was married to a white man. It was not their biological father, but she got married to him when both the children were very young. She has a brother, and apparently she told them or allowed them to believe that he was their biological father. And so they were very close, the daughter and the stepfather. And then he died. And apparently, when he died, that's when the mother told them that he was not their biological father. And for whatever reason, and I don't know, I am not a psychiatrist, but for whatever reason, this child went into a thing of believing that she was white, and she talks bad about black people, and it was actually very sad and sickening. Uh, and this is coming on the heels of a period where we've had so many white people, especially white women, calling the police on black people doing regular things. And the majority were white women, but it's interesting. White women call the police on black males or black men or boys. White men call the police on black women or girls. And it reminded me of a poem I wrote years ago. And the title was All White People Are the Police. And at the time, people didn't know what I was talking about. But I was basically saying that, look, when it comes right down to it, firstly, all white people watch black people And if we do things that causes them to fear or cause something that triggers them, they will call the police. Virtually all of us who have worked in environments with white people can recite incidences where two or three black people are talking together, and either a white person will come and insert themselves in the conversation, or literally ask, "What are y'all talking about?" or some kind of way interfere with what's going on. And it's they don't go to the same school to do this. This is something that some kind of way is written into their formative years, that they feel they need to do this. And we're seeing it manifested when we see all these people calling the police on black people who are doing legal things. Uh, Doing legal things. And they feel they have the right to call the police and report us. And I've said it before, I say it again. When white people call the police, they know good and well it can lead to a beatdown, an arrest, or even death of the black people that they calling the police on. Make no mistake about it. They are very clear. They know that. What did you say, Clyde? It continues to amaze how white folks perpetrating death by gun escape death by law enforcement. That's right. You know, well, what the white guy said to the other white guy, he said, "We don't kill white people," and that's apparently the standard that white police go by. We don't kill white people. If you're a black police and you kill a white person, oh, your ass is grass. you know. But I think that one of the things that most of us were just too tripped out about this week was the so-called Black Leadership Summit or whatever at the White House. Now, it was primarily put together by Candace Owens, Stacey Dash, and some other folks, but just for a second, we know who Stacey Dash is. That's Clueless. She's been clueless for a long time. She's still clueless. But Candace Owens is a young black woman who just recently, in the last year or two, became a super duper Trumpette. She 2 years ago she had a anti-Trump website, and her family is sued in the past about something that happened to her dealing with discrimination. But for whatever reason, she has chosen to become a pro-Trump, pro-Trumpette, and she helped organize this so-called Black Leadership Forum or whatever. Um, what I think just either confused, hurt, angered so many of us was seeing what appeared to be several hundred young black people or young Negroes at the White House, many of them wearing MAGA hats and cheering on the most racist, vicious stuff. It was unbelievable. Before Trump even got there, because apparently Jared Kushner, the son in law, had been a part of this. And it went on for several days. And to see young black people doing this, um, man, it was unbelievable. And part of me wanted to say, where and who are their parents? Um, but it also worried me. It worried me quite a bit. And the reason it worried me quite a bit is because we have finally reached a point in this country that our young people, and I said this years ago, when a community does not educate and does not employ its youth, the youth will eat that community. Black communities all across this country, we don't educate our children. We let somebody else half a do it, and we don't employ our children. And therefore, they are turning on their communities. Not all of them. Some do it in the gang kind of way. They're not super organized gangs like before, because the original black gangs were street organizations. They actually rose up to fight white gangs. They used to come into the communities and beat up and burn up and kill up. But it's a different kind of gang now. These are basically young black people who have nobody guiding them, and they have way too much access to guns and drugs, and they get high and they go out and shoot people. They don't see themselves having a future at all. And then you got these others who apparently I would say are the ones that are we tend to think of as being the ones who are getting educations and and think of themselves as being part of a different group of young black people heading for success, but some kind of way, because we don't educate them, somebody else is leading them on. What kind of as think about this? What could make a young black person put on a MAGA hat? What would cause a black person to go to the White House and cheer one of the most racist, vicious people to ever occupy the White House? When you look at those pictures where they were looking at him like he was the second coming of Jesus, and you say, what? Where did they get these people? Now, the young black people who are not part of either one of those two, the politically progressives, the ones Black Lives Matters, and the ones that are really trying to change things, even there is some issues with the older black people because a lot of them are, let's put it like this, there's a lot of older black people who are not at all comfortable with transgenders and homosexuals and a lot of these younger people are sexually or gender different. And so there's a loss of connection there. We are in trouble, y'all. We are in trouble. So let me move on to the subject. Uh yeah, what'd you say? Right, nobody guiding him except Kanye. And see, even Kanye, now they try to give Kanye credit for this, but I don't give Kanye credit for this. There's something else going on. These are not Kanye people that was at the White House. If you notice, he wasn't there. Okay? Uh, I will bet money, though. I'll bet money that some of the fraternities and sororities were there. Okay? Because there are some very conservative sororities and fraternities. Not all of them, but some of them. And some of these chapters are are very dangerous, as we can see. See, I look at it like this. Think of it like this. Think of this like a room full of Jewish youth at a Hitler rally. Okay? Because how do they stand there and cheer a dude who talks bad about everybody except his own? And here's the part that kills me. They have hats on that say "Make America Great Again." And if you were to ask them when was America great, you would probably be struck numb at their responses. They don't know. They ain't old enough to know more than their history of themselves. you know. And so, what kind of brainwashing have they been through that makes them think that there was a time America was great for black people? I put them there with the little girl who thinks she's white. These Negroes think they're white. And so the second part of this today, would you say this is America? The second part of this today is called, it talks about the Southern Manifesto legacy. And we need to understand how we got here. The Southern Manifesto, let me take you back a little bit. It was formerly known as the Declaration of Constitutional Principles, informally known as the Southern Manifesto. It was a document that was written in 1956 in the United States Congress in opposition to racial integration of public places. Let's be very clear. This manifesto was signed by 101 congressmen, 99 Southern Democrats, and 2 Republicans from Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and Virginia. It was drafted to counter the landmark Supreme Court 1954 ruling, Brown versus the Board of Education. And that, of course, determined that segregation of public schools was unconstitutional. So the Senate, senators led the opposition to this. A dude named Strom Thurmond, he wrote the initial draft. Y'all remember Strom Thurmond? He just died not too many years ago, one of the longest serving senators in the history of the United States, long-time segregationist. And when he died, that's when it became public that he had fathered a black daughter with either his housekeeper or somebody. And all under Congress on Capitol Hill, they knew who she was, but it never was public. But you need to understand, Richard Russell wrote the final version. And if you go to Washington, D.C., you'll see a building named after Richard Russell. It was signed by 19 senators and 82 representatives. And let me say this again. The entire congressional delegations of the states of Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, and Virginia. 3 Southern Senate Democrats refused to sign. One was Albert Gore Sr., Estes Kefauver of Tennessee, and Lyndon B. Johnson of Texas. Of course, their colleagues really dogged them in those days. And what you have to understand is that they were serious about opposing integration, particularly in the schools, but they were against it in public places. Now, why is that important to understand? Well, we're talking about 1956. In 1954, the Supreme Court ruled that in Brown versus Board of Education that the schools were segregated and it was unconstitutional. Okay, at the time, the rule was separate but equal. And of course, Thurgood Marshall was the lead lawyer in that case. And he did such a good job, they said, we got to get that Negro out of here and put him on the Supreme Court. We can hold him, hold him in hostage. But it wasn't just the South that was against this. um, all throughout the North, there was just all this upheaval against the idea of of desegregating the schools and integrating public places. It's important to understand this because, see, we didn't call it integration. What black people were saying was, look, we want access to public places, that we pay taxes just like everybody else. And we want access. We want desegregation. Okay? And there's a difference because somebody else decided to call it integration as a way of stirring up trouble. It reminds me so much of Trump and them with what they do now. Because what's going on now is really deep. Uh, Let me break it like this: the media plays this thing of calling itself being objective and showing us two sides of things. Why that's dangerous is this: if you tell a lie and then someone else comes with the facts to show that you are lying, then the media should say, oh, that dude's lying. But instead, what happens is the resident of the White House tells a lie. And let's say someone else, like a Democrat, says, here's the facts. The guy is lying. The media won't say, oh, he's lying. They simply say, here's another side of the question. And they treat Trump's lie as if it's a possible fact, just the other side of a coin. And they love to say there's two sides to every question. No, there's more than two sides. But we're in a situation where every lie he tells becomes another side of a coin. So now Trump has been out here for several years now, stowing, causing all kinds of stuff with lies and what's the word? I say he's a hate monger, and a hate monger is somebody who kindles anger and hate and things in other people. So he's been doing this for several years. Okay? The media treated it like it's funny or it's not dangerous and stuff. And we have been saying for the longest, look, this is dangerous. And we were ignored. And now a few Democrats are coming back with some stronger language, not like his. They're just simply saying, look, this got to stop. And now you have the media saying, well, maybe all sides should tone down the rhetoric. Trump ain't toning down nothing. But now it's okay to attack those who are saying he's a liar and attack them as saying that they're helping to stoke the anger that's in the country. No, that's not true. There's more people saying, look, this is dangerous, it's getting out of hand. And now we have the physical manifestation of what he's been promoting for several years. In that, like I said, the signal's going out, it's okay to attack. And then you have people like Trump and Trumpettes saying that the dude that went in and killed all them people in the synagogue, that it's the Democrats' fault. That different things that are going on with the violence, that it's the Democrats' fault. And the media treats it like simply another way of looking at things instead of saying, you lying ass. You see? But it's not the first time, as these graphics that I've been putting up here show you. This country is built on mob mentality. It's built on it. What you're seeing there with these white women protesting integration or the schools, busing and stuff, that went on from north to south. But if you go back even further, what will you see? You'll see huge crowds of people and lynchings. What's the difference between these people you see right here and the people that you saw in the photographs at lynchings? White mob mentality. And in this country, there's a long history of that. And let's put it this way, it's not illegal because they don't stop white people. They don't arrest white people. White people feel if they're mad about something, they are allowed to voice their dissent and, if necessary, tear stuff up, hurt people, and kill people. Okay? And I want these graphics to be up here because our young people need to see this. This ain't way back 200 years ago. This ain't 100 years ago. Most of these graphics I'm showing here in the black and white are from the 50s and 60s. And then I threw in some from nowadays with Trump. Same people. Or their children. Same people. So we need to understand the history of things in this country. It's not new. It's not new. And we got to stop people from thinking that it's new. Because when they think that it's new, there's two things that happens. The young people, especially young black people, if they think it's new, then they think that they have to do something different than fight it. Okay? They get convinced and taught in their schools, in the schools that we allow our children to go to with other people teaching them. They teach them tolerance. And they teach them that you should try to talk to these people who have guns and bombs. Okay? Do we have to have it happen again where it was a young white boy that went into black church and killed up all those black people? Right? And how did the police treat him? Not only did they take him alive, they took him to Burger King. Most of the police that shoot black people are young. They're young. Most of the time under 30. We are in a war that most of us don't want to acknowledge is going on. It is a worldwide war. And my fear is that we will end up with a lot of casualties of black people who have been misled into thinking that the white people they're dealing with are not the children of these people we see right here. That they're not the children and grandchildren of the Klansmen. You know, it's supposedly part of Trump history that his grandfather, or his father, one of the two, was, if he wasn't a member of the KKK, he hung out with them. And people are surprised. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Why would we be surprised when you listen to this dude? How long ago, long before he ran for president, we knew Trump was a racist. It wasn't no doubt in our minds, especially anybody who knew him from New York. They knew I knew, and I'm not from New York. I knew when he took out a whole page ad against the New York Five, the young men who had been accused and tried, convicted, and went to prison, supposedly for raping this woman in the park. And it turned out they were all innocent, totally innocent. And he took out a whole page ad advocating for the death penalty for them, called them animals. And even after it was totally shown that they were not at all guilty, he still clung to that they were guilty. Same dude that ran around for years saying that Barack Obama wasn't born in the United States, that birther stuff. And we've seen it time after time. Who does he criticize? Who does he attack? He attacks black people and he attacks women. He's done it his whole life. So we're at a critical time, I believe. And I think we need to make sure we go back and we look at things so we understand how we got here. I will bet money that if you ask most black people, adults or young people, even maybe some of the students might know, but I'm not sure. If you ask them what was the Southern Manifesto, and why this is important now is this. If you notice, I said it was signed by 99 Southern Democrats. You have some Republicans running around now, and they tell the young people, they say, well, the Republican Party was the party of Lincoln, and we've always been for black people. And they don't know the history. They don't know that at one time, yes, the Republican Party was a different party, a different party. And then it changed, especially after black people left it, and black people switched basically over to the Democratic Party. And that caused a whole bunch of white Southern Democrats to leave the Democratic Party. They became what we call Dixiecrats. And then they essentially went over to the Republican Party. And the Republican Party became known as the White People's Party. And the Democratic Party became known as the Liberal Whites and the Nigger Party. Trust me, I'm not saying that out of meanness. That's what they called it. Now you have folks saying, well, because the Democrats never did nothing for black people, that they should switch and go to the Republican Party. Wait a minute. What kind of sense does that make? That you're going to leave the party where at least you get in, to try to get into a party that tells you out front, we don't want you. And so you say, well, Massa, if you let me in, I'll be good. I'll do whatever you say. They say, come on in here, boy, and shine my shoes. Mop that floor. Because that's what they do with Republicans. Look at how many of the black Republicans in the last 10 years have left the Republican Party talking about, ooh, they sure is racist. Like they're surprised. Okay? They're so blatant. But, and that's what I talked about last week about the belief that, or maybe I didn't say it, but anyway, one of the big issues in this country, problems, is that most people believe that the two-party system is the best and that we have to be a two-party system. No, we don't. We don't have to be a two-party system. We could be a three-party, a 10-party system. And if you break that stuff up, that would solve a lot of these issues. Anyway, uh, hopefully, and I put these graphics up here, especially from 1956, a lot of them from 1956, because we need to understand what was going on in this country when those dudes did the Southern Manifesto. That was some blatantly racist stuff. Straight up in our faces. 1956. This was before uh, Rosa Parks refused to get up out of her seat. If I'm not mistaken, it was also before they killed Emmett Till. It was before the summers the summers where the bus riders rode the buses. It was all kind of stuff happening. This was 1956. It was before the bombing of the church that killed the four little girls. All of that stuff was coming because the Southern Manifesto said to do whatever they needed to do in order to stop integration. See, that's what you have to understand. It was a manifesto that said, now in the manifesto they said all legal or lawful means, but what's the law? They think they own the law. They think they're above the law. And so you had an outbreak of all kinds of violence. They marched on DC with hundreds of thousands of sheet wearing Klans people. Don't believe me? Go look it up. You can find the photos. They were marching down in front of the Capitol and all of that, hundreds of thousands of them. They didn't care. They were making the world know. So we're in this position today, and they are effectively nulling our young people because remember, our young people are the ones that usually lead the struggles. If you look back at the time in the 50s and the 60s, it was the young people that were the energizers. They were like the ones that were willing to get the dogs attacking them and get hoses and police beating on them. They were willing to fill up the jails. They were willing to fight. And that's why they have tried to nullify our young people, where they got our young people nowadays either shooting each other and shooting us, or shooting the good young people, or at the White House cheering on a racist. Sounding like white people up there, USA, USA, USA. I was like, what in the heck? Those are not young black people that are going to be out there fighting for black rights. Anyway, I'm done for now. I hope that we're getting closer and closer to this November election. And I hope what I'm seeing is partially true, or at least somewhat true. There's two things about it. One is we have never seen, well, not never, the level of repression of the vote, suppression of the vote, disenfranchised, illegal stuff going on is we haven't seen anything like this since the 1950s. Okay, all over this country, there's all kinds of things being done to throw the elections. And the more black people are trying to vote, the more they're running into issues where thousands are being dropped or suspended from the registrations and 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 they're doing all kinds of things. They close up polling places in our communities and make you have to go across town. Uh, all kinds of stuff. And they've been practicing and preparing this for the last several years, y'all. So one of the things that black folks are doing, I have been doing the last few elections, is voting early more and more. Uh, but if you notice, the white folks have been doing that more and more this election. They've been mobilizing the racist whites to get out there and vote. So we got a battle going on. In fact, they're already saying that the numbers for early voting are already outdoing the 2016 election. And that was a presidential election. This is what you call an off-year election. Those are usually small turnouts. But they've been working on it, y'all. Working on suppressing our votes and upping their votes. Show you how deep it is. In Georgia, there's a black woman running for governor. Her opponent, dude named Kemp, Kemp, he is also the Secretary of State in charge of voting. And he been doing vicious stuff, dropping people, deregistering people, all kind of stuff. And he's running for office. That's a clear conflict of interest. You don't let the same dude, same person who's in charge of voting be running in an election that he's a part of. Never heard no stuff like that. But we're seeing all of that. So, what's that line say? Better hang on because it's going to be a bumpy ride. See, understand this is just really getting started. Sad to say, this is really just getting started. The tactics and strategies about the vote, that's not going to end. It's going to get worse. The violence being visited upon the various communities, the black, the brown, and sad to say, even the Jewish communities, uh, they better get prepared. Because if they think that that was an isolated incident with this dude walking into a synagogue and shooting it up, they better learn. Just like we better learn. If we think that that one incident with one young white boy going into a black church, sitting up there for 2 hours with black people, and then get up and shoot them all, if we think that's an isolated incident, you better learn. So, uh, as always, I'm going to say no justice, no peace, no love, KNOW, and I am done. Thank you, Clyde. As always, you're just a cool person. And I say this, be careful, be safe. I'll see you in the whirlwind.